Well, I think the department had had a very successful 10 or 11 year run under the leadership of Tom Feasby. So mostly I was thinking about not screwing it up. I'd been a fan of Tom's for a number of years, and I'd kind of watched how he did business. You know, we're different people, but some things I think, run true. Bob Lee before Tom, and Tom had a vision to create an academic department as well as a top clinical department. So I wanted to maintain that objective of having the right balance, but certainly having an emphasis on research. So that was part of how what was on my mind as I came to the job, along with not fumbling the ball. You know why it's a tough job is because, well, first of all, I was a neurologist, and I liked the neurosurgeons a lot. I mean, some of my best friends are neurosurgeons, and I like to hang out with them and play golf with them and stuff. But I'm not a neurosurgeon, and I'm not a rehab specialist. So you have to be comfortable leading people who know more than you do about most everything in their world. It was a great time, of course, to be the head of clinical neurosciences. The money was bountiful. Oil was flowing. Money was bountiful. Recruiting was relatively easy. And there was a time of great optimism, energy in Alberta. The residency programs expanded. There was a new residency program in PM&R that began during that time, and I think was hugely successful, almost beyond our dreams. We seem to be attracting these great young people when we kind of almost had no business doing that. But, I think they saw the neuro focus and were attracted to that. I think they saw the multiple dimensions of this department and were attracted to that. So it was a great environment for them in which to learn and train. I probably in some way wanted to put some additional mark on the department that might be new. I saw the epilepsy program as an opportunity to do that. I saw the development of physical medicine rehabilitation as a division that was also academic as well as clinical as an objective. Although these were things that probably evolved over the first 2 or 3 years. Well, one of the things that was on my mind really from the beginning was recruitment. Again, really listening to what Tom had said. I didn't pay attention to him all the time, or maybe even most of the time. But I did listen to certain things, and he said, recruitment you should always be recruiting. I do recall thinking about recruitment of division heads as I came into the role. Garnet was just finishing a 10-year term as the head of neurosurgery, or about to finish. So how could you possibly replace Garnet Sutherland? So that was an anxiety, a challenge, and something of an anxiety. And then neurology had done so well with Vern Becker as leader, and he'd had such a steady hand on the wheel, and so the thought of replacing those two individuals felt a bit daunting initially. And then John Latter had been recruited as the head of PM&R. I think without that kind of team, it's very difficult to be successful in these roles. So I really benefited from the help of Raj and Sam, John Latter, and Chester Hall more recently. They were all great. I do remember every time at Grand Rounds, which by the way was, I think, the highlight of the week for me. And I liked that this was a time in the week when we set aside most of the other stuff and came together and thought about a few problems. I remember feeling kind of inspired every time the stroke team would make one of their presentations, kind of kind of Lazarus-like presentations where people in extremis would be up walking the next day, and I like that, and I like the teamwork. It was very evident. When I first arrived, Alistair Buchan was still here, and he had built this. He had built this initially kind of smaller group of great people. Most all of them are still here, except for Alistair himself. But there was a kind of esprit de corps that I admired. The other thing that I remembered, I felt quite, if you ask me what was I proud of at the end of it all, the people we recruited to clinical neurosciences, definitely that would be one of the highlights. And I think developing the South Health Campus unit, which was personally rewarding because years ago in my past life, I was involved in closing a unit. And I'll tell you, opening one is much better. Much better.